two friends of mine who are pretty staunch conservatives, just about what's been going on with Trump's federalization of DC troops. And, they're friends of mine. Be respectful, please. They voted for Trump. I did not vote for Trump. Hey, Intel guy, how you doing?
Good, good. I'm gonna probably go on mute for a few. I'm not actually ready, but I wanted to connect.
Yeah, you go on mute. I just invited Rebel Intel. You got my invite through the share?
Yes.
All right, great. Did you see the title of this live stream?
No.
Can you look at it?
Why can't I see it?
Oh no, it's not there.
You better just tell me so I know whether to hang up or not.
Right-wing psycho debates.
You did not.
I did.
Oh my god. Oh, what are you gonna do when you find out you're like been crushed by us? That's gonna be weird.
It happens. I don't win them all. You guys might have a chance of whooping me. I got a burning fever. I think I got COVID.
Oh, here it goes with the excuses.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm gonna sissy out. Be like, no. Oh no, don't worry. It just means you have half a chance of getting a point across. That's all.
Wait. So you're gonna sissy out, which means nothing's changed then.
No, I'm not leaving. It's just gonna be even more rewarding. When I totally trash you guys.
Oh yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So Rebel should be on any minute. He was ready before we were.
Yeah, that's what he said. But yeah, it's funny. The fever's burning, but when I take a Epsom salts bath, it helps. So I got Tylenol. I took a Epsom salts bath.
Did you get a test?
What was that?
You said you thought you had COVID. Did you get a little?
Yeah, I'm about to my wife she's actually supposed to give me the test like 5 minutes ago, but like the thing is, my mother-in-law got it. She was over at the house. Other relatives started getting it, so I'm like, all right, great. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Oh, Rebel Intel. There you go. Okay, let me just invite you again. All right.
Trying to find a place in the house to go.
Understand. Hello, Rebel Intel.
Hello.
Hey, you guys want to put your camera on?
Yeah, I'm gonna get there here in a minute.
Yeah, take your time. Hey, good to see you.
Kids are taking over the downstairs, so
yeah. Hey, Intel guy, you got kids?
I got two.
Oh, good for you, man. All right,
Yeah.
Hey, you're keeping the population where it should be. At least, you're definitely not contributing to the population decline.
Exactly. You know me, man. That's been one of the things I assail people for. It's like they don't realize they have to contribute.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of why we need immigrants.
Yeah, to make up the deficit for those that don't want to contribute. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The funny thing is too, it's like I always hear people complain, "Oh my God, we're too poor to have kids." I'm like, people were like dirt poor 100 years ago, and they had like 19 kids.
Yeah, well, I mean, to look at the current poor countries, they're outpacing us by a lot.
Yeah, well, but the overall birth rate, even in those countries, is dropping.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still producing enough that will sustain society for another 100 plus years.
Yes, we're not doing that. So, guys, sorry, I was distracted. Everyone who's paying attention, these are two military guys, Rebel Intel, the Intel guy. They both served their country honorably in the Marines, and they both, were intelligence officers. And we're going to be talking about just, Trump federalizing DC troops, and I think their input is going to be so useful on this. Rebel Intel, like you were in law enforcement, right?
Yes, I was in law enforcement for a little while.
So there you go. You were in law enforcement, and now you're getting a PhD in studying the Princess Bride film. That's great, And the Intel guy, he's from Alaska, so he's had so many run-ins with inappropriate relations with walrus and seals that he might as well be his own attorney. So these guys know the laws. But no, Rebel Intel, as someone who's actually worked in law enforcement, and you were actually at the border, I think input is really it can offer some perspective. If I could just open, like my stance is, I said stuff like this was going to happen. Like, I didn't know exactly how, but I mean, Trump isn't breaking any laws federalizing DC officers, right? It's section 740 of the Home Rule Act of 1973. So I don't know if actually I do know. DC, the officers were never federalized. This is the first time they were ever federalized. And that's, I mean, look, it might stink, but it's not illegal. It's not unconstitutional. My fear is because he said he wants to extend this. And the fact that he was quoted into saying he wants to extend this to other cities, that's what scares me. That's what I'm like, okay, because then, in my opinion, and in the opinion of other lawyers I've been speaking to, that's where we get into like unconstitutional territory.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that that's overall pretty correct, because while, like you mentioned, it's not unprecedented in DC, extending it to other cities might start blurring that line and being even more of an overreach.
And I'm concerned he's just going to go for the power grab. I think every president tries to buck against their containments. You know what I mean? I just feel like Trump. I think he does that. He redefines he redefines executive. Well, maybe not as much as FDR. FDR, at least, I think there was really an emergency. But I feel like what Trump is doing is like bordering on that. That's just my opinion.
I think LBJ was a little bit of an emergency too, and I think he federalized some troops for Selma, didn't he?
And he put the National Guard, LBJ. That was Martin Luther King's assassination, because he didn't federalize the DC police, but he did bring in a ton of the National Guard, and the DC troops were coordinating heavily with the National Guard. So there was a lot of integration, but it wasn't this. It wasn't, our president saying you're a branch of the federal government now. Or not a branch of the federal government, but like you work for the federal government now. That's what I mean. So what do you think, Intel guy? You're muted. You're still muted.
Let me rehash something, or actually get some clarification. So did you say that the police had never been federalized before in DC?
Yeah, this is the first time I've read of the police being federalized.
So then what was it like prior to 1973?
Ooh, because 1973 was when DC got its own mayor and everything.
Yeah, so between 1874 and 1973, it was actually at least partially federalized, and the federal government and Congress and everything pretty much had more authority over the law enforcement.
Okay, fine. So then, so technically over Washington, D.C., it was federal territory, so it was federalized. But this is the first time, even with that argument, that was a good one, though. This is the first time that city police have been federalized. So since the creation of the Home Rule Act.
Okay, since they decided to institute a mayor and a city council, so that's okay. And
this isn't illegal. This is not illegal. It's not illegal.
So if we spent 100 years, whole century beforehand, where it wasn't an issue.
Yeah, that's a good point. But remember, my concern is his declared intent to extend it to other cities. But the thing is, we know that Trump will flip on a dime. Like, he might say some crazy stuff, but it's really bad when he says that he's the president.
Is it though?
Yes.
I mean, because what does it do but force people to educate themselves on civics that they was sorely lacking in their entire upbringing? I mean,
can you tell me more?
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, how many of us have the same story where we had like a semester's worth of civics in high school, and like that's it, and it barely anybody can name the three branches of government, let alone how they function or how they interrelate to each other.
You took civics as a course?
I mean, yeah, it was a It was like at least one class I had as a junior in high school. Yeah.
I wish we didn't have a civics course.
But now, so you came out of high school, didn't know a damn thing unless you educated yourself, right?
Yes, exactly.
So we had a whole country, a whole generation, probably plus that, probably more than that, right? Probably generations of people that didn't know in any of the inner workings of our government beyond what I stated. And now we have a bunch of pseudo experts out there. Why? Because Trump is constantly pushing the limits of constitutionality to force people to get educated. So.
Well, I don't think he's doing it for that reason, but it is helping. It actually.
I'm not saying he's doing it for that reason. I'm simply saying that's a positive outcome of him doing that.
I mean, you see, it's a good point. There is a positive outcome with the presidency, with him becoming the president. At least the first time, is it showed the ugly American underbelly, but it also shows how wrong things are. Like how wrong things are that he won over what the Democrats had. Like a 34 count convicted felon who failed to quell what I consider to be an insurrection and maybe even started it. But I know you guys will disagree. That's fine. But
it doesn't make any sense. But go ahead.
Sure. Well, okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Go date some seals. All right. But
my fault. You don't understand. Okay.
Well, no. It's like. He doesn't really reflect family values or anything I consider to be honorable, but he won. Like the cards were stacked against him, and he still won.
No kidding. The lawfare was unprecedented, and he still won.
That was a big statement for you, Gio.
I mean, look, I'm not. It's like again, like even if I don't like someone, if they win, like my hat's off. You're effing God. Like, I mean, everything was against him, and he won. It doesn't mean I like the bastard, but you know. And also, I agree with his attack on Iran 100%. Like, and when he was talking tough to Russia, I was like, "Whoa, all right." You know, I mean, it's like I'm not gonna just because I hate someone doesn't mean I'm gonna detract from something I think can actually help this country.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wish more of your. Well, it's not just your followers. I wish more people out there generally felt that way.
Yeah, you know. I mean, the problem is, I think when people are in their echo chamber, they won't criticize the people that they like doing what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know. Good.
No, I was going to say. So back to the DC thing. Yes. You know, everybody's worried that he's going to extend this, but like one, how would he? And maybe Rebel can answer that, but or how he couldn't. But two. Is this not necessarily an interesting model for governors to follow?
What do you mean? I don't even know what that means. That's interesting though, because Rebel's like nodding his head.
So let's look at why he did it in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong. The stats, whether no matter
the
how
stats are BS.
Well, no, they're BS they're BS for two reasons. Well, one reason really is that there's a concern that they were downgraded, right? Making them less severe than they actually are.
Yeah.
But two, the stats, at least trend-wise, show a lower amount than even the high of the high back 30 years ago. And my question, I guess and I know, Rebel, you can jump right in after I make this statement, but my question is, why do we have to have a bar that goes so high before we federalize any kind of support, from the say the military, for example? Why does it have to go so high for us to do that? Why can't we look at the lowest lows and say, why aren't we back down to that? Because right now they are still pretty high comparatively.
Our murder rates?
Right.
All of the rates, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, the stats are kind of an interesting story in and of themselves. And there is that commander out there that's on leave, Michael Pulliam, who has been accused of manipulating stats. And on one side, people are saying, well, it's only in one district. How much of an impact does this have? Well, we don't know, number one, on that point. And then the NIBRS, the newer FBI stat system is newer. A lot of departments aren't fully integrated into it yet. I know my friend that just retired from APD, I don't think they were using it yet. It's the newer version of basically their UCR, their Uniform Crime Report. And we don't know exactly how clean that data is and who is looking at it for what things, but one of the main things was that they're showing, and this is a point that people are clinging to, is this 34% decline from 2023 to 2024, which is
Mhm.
probably true. However, they're not taking a more longitudinal look back to like 2010 or even pre-pandemic, when we're still at a higher homicide and violent crime rate before the pandemic occurred. So what happened was, in the Biden era, these last 4 years, there was a huge spike. So saying there's a 34% decrease is not as good of a baseline, statement to make. We should have been saying Biden, maybe we shouldn't have. We should be asking why Biden didn't do something like this when he was in, because things were just getting off the chain, right?
But there's a reason. It wasn't just in Washington D.C. The reason why like we saw increases in crime overall is because we went through a huge pandemic. We printed more money like at a quicker rate than we ever have, and that wasn't just under Biden. The majority of that was actually under Trump. So we incurred a huge ton of debt. We overprinted a lot of money. And then the thing is, when you print money, inflation doesn't kick in until 3 to 6 months later. So Biden got the inflation spike. All right. Wait. All right. So you're muted again. You're muted again, Intel guy. Biden got the inflation spike. There was an overall just like weakening of the economy. And also interest rates then rose up 5%. Raising interest rates that quickly, we are lucky we didn't go through a potential like recession just off of the interest rates. So that affected the whole country. That slowed down the velocity of money. So the crime wasn't because, I don't know, like Democrat free for all. It was because of a weakened economy. That's why
Well,
we had crime.
your points go to some of my points regarding the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of the entire international system, because we have bodies like the WHO and others that are specifically designed to try to detect and at least mitigate, if not prevent, some of these things. And we also have a lot of crime elements, the counter crime elements, Interpol, Europol, United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime. Here in America, we've got the FBI, we've got 81 fusion centers for Homeland Security. They should have been able to crunch all these numbers and do some predictive analysis back in 2018 or 2019. Even President Bush, while he was still in, said, hey, we're about due for a pandemic any day now. And for over a decade, nobody did anything and nobody prepared for it. And they probably have a playbook for all this. And what did they do? They waited until it was too late. And maybe part of that was part of.
I mean, this is the thing. I remember. I'm gonna shut up real soon, Intel guy, because I know you want to chime in. Like in 2017, 2018, Trump was defunding the CDC because he was like, "Well, I'm a businessman, and we don't need to be spending all of this money for something that really isn't generating business." Which was the stupidest. And I was like, that's probably a really bad thing. Because the CDC doesn't just deal with diseases, when there's an outbreak, the CDC prevents diseases from spreading around the world. Like in China, the CDC has spots in China, Africa, all over the world, and Trump defunded them. Not completely, but he was shaving off like 10%.
But I mean, that goes to their efficiency, though, for them and the WHO.
Yeah.
How much?
So
Go ahead.
three things. One real quick. I had a colleague of mine, or rather a fellow student, that was a director in the CDC, and he was during the pandemic, and he was complaining that there was too much confusion coming from the White House. And my only counter to him was like, well, why are we so centralized that you have to wait for what comes out of the White House? I mean, we're a massive monolithic organization. Don't you have your own directives and ability to conduct your actions without having such a high level of command and control at the White House? And he was in HR, so like, what is he gonna really tell me from an operational perspective? But that was the general complaint he shared. But two other things. So I think earlier you went a little too macro, right, with regards to the rise in crime and like what led up to that. Also, you left out the fact that the money fire hoses opened by both Republicans and Democrats, and Trump was going to sign off on that no matter what, or get vetoed or get overruled. And then the only time that we pushed too much money was a partisan by the Democrats.
Oh, I'm not blaming
nearly $2 trillion.
I'm not blaming Trump for.
Well, I know, but like you managed to squeak it in there,
No, I said some of it happened under Trump as well. I said
you said the majority, but you failed.
I did say the majority. That's a good point.
You failed to highlight the fact that that wasn't a complete whole of government, push.
Another thing though, another huge. Go ahead.
Well, the third thing was that I think because going back to the whole DC federalization crime bit and why Biden didn't do it is that, we shouldn't rely. The president should do what the president can in the authority he's given, no matter who it is. And Biden, I think that was Rebel's point, was that Biden just sat back and was too laissez-faire, did absolutely nothing. And when he could have said, at least set the example. He could have at least said, hey, DC's crime is way too high. We're federalizing. We're going to get it under control.
I've been to DC 3 times since July of last year. When I was in New York a couple times, New York was much more of a crap sty than DC.
Well, yeah.
That's the thing I don't really understand about the stats, and I would definitely need to look at them deeper, because when you have such a high homicide rate, and yet to your point, I mean, granted, our experiences are anecdotal, but we all, at least I can feel I did the same thing, right? And I would go there and I would be like, I felt like I was walking through District 1 while the rest of the country was like suffering. You had all these people out in the restaurants and going to concerts and stuff, and I'm like, and like everything was clean, and I'm like,
what's the problem here? Look at these stats. See this murder rate? This is the murder rate for Memphis.
Right.
That's 40. All right. St. Louis, 37. I got here. Check it out. I got
You would think the governor needs to go in there and tell the Democratic mayor what to do.
Well, in Missouri, the governor did for a while basically have the state police go in and manage crime into helping the St. Louis police just recently, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, good. I did not know. I mean, to me, again, it would make sense. It makes sense if the state comes in and they're just like, okay, you can't get this under control. I don't know what it is. I don't know who you're not bribing. I mean, there's always going to be local corruption, and you can't do that with DC because the president, like that intel guy, pointed out, that was his territory up until 1973. Okay. Sorry, we're not disagreeing enough. You guys suck. What's going on?
We're too logical for you.
I know.
You guys are talking about DC around the Pentagon area and Tyson's Corner, Liberty Crossing, and the nicer areas. If you go to where they had the old, is it still there? The DIAC, the Defense Intelligence headquarters, because that area is.
Oh, that area is. It's like Lebanon, dude. It is.
Yeah, that area is bad, and around Fort Meade is not good.
Yeah,
but that's outside.
I don't know. I think the area actually, some parts. But I mean, I lived 15 minutes from Fort Meade in Severn, and it was fine. But I think to your point, there's just pockets everywhere around that area.
See, that goes to that point where it's the one commander, and they've suspended him over these allegations of specifically misrepresenting stats. We don't know exactly how much that was and what district, how much of an impact. I don't think it's a huge impact. But again, I'm thinking that the focus in the news has been, there's this decrease from 2023, when it's actually not a decrease. It's actually, we're kind of level setting again from about
2022. What was the murder rate at 20? Did it increase from 2022 to 2023?
I don't think were there numbers for that?
Yeah, there's a huge spike from 2022 to 2023.
That makes sense. That's when inflation kicked in and the interest rates shot up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of issues going on, and it's not just crime, and it's not really Biden's fault. It's not Trump's fault, but there's a whole system at play here, and that's one of the things I want to pitch you an underhand slow pitch for you to hit out of the park and give you a solid here. This is something that the Democratic side needs to look at for 2028,
Mm.
is not the ad hoc or ad hom attacks on an individual. Because Trump,
Yeah.
I've said it 100 times, Trump is not even in the top 100 richest men in America. He's
Yeah.
not that powerful. I don't personally think he's that charismatic, but every time he says something that's provocative and controversial, he lives free in everybody's
Yes.
head. He rent
The
free, and
hate,
on both
the
sides, left and
hate.
right, and they allow him to control the media cycle.
Yes. I that's something that, like, I hated from like 2017 to 2021. Like, I was just like, every day I would just wake up and be like, what's the damage report now? And like, I would, if I found out someone like supported Trump, I would just like, I would feel like hate, like, oh my God. And I guess because I'm older now, and he got reelected, and it's like, I don't hate anymore. I'm just like, well, I'm expecting this. Like everything that's happening, I'm expecting. I feel no hatred, and I also realized that hatred was in tens of millions of people's minds, and it messed us up. It messed us up because we need to be talking. We need to be talking.
Well,
You need to be not just talking, but you need to understand both sides of a story, because I feel like that's one of the big problems here. And I mean, not to, but like let's look at Russia collusion, for example. We're just now getting the other side of the story. When you see the 203 that was released about Schiff, and then you see the email from Clapper to the Dernza, and you're just like, and then you're just like, holy, like, I already knew about all this stuff. But the point is that hopefully other people are like, oh yeah, I guess they were trying to set up the president. Well, no shit.
Well, it's like the Democrats, what I don't know. And again, I'm someone who's historically voted Democrat, but the Democrats, they're trying to uphold this position of virtue.
right.
Without being virtuous.
Hey, it's like, how do you have virtue, but you're just blinded by the hate, and it's like, I think the Democrats are so poorly organized. There's so much infighting. They don't know how to be a monolith when they have to be. Like the Republicans, I'm sure there's a lot of infighting and all that stuff. But when there's an election, they're like, oh, okay, this is what we say, this is where we go, and this is how we win. And the Democrats don't have that. Democrats like, no, look at me, I'm virtue signaling here. No, my candidate. Oh, I don't want to support him because I don't know, the animals are being offended over here. It's like, I mean,
Well, you're helping us identify part of the vulnerability or weakness that helped Trump get back in. And I'm
yeah,
trying to say, pluralism and DE&I and multiculturalism is good, and I will stick up for it to a point. But when it's like I'm getting at work 3 emails a day inviting me to something, and it's unsolicited, we're taking that a little bit too far.
wait, what do you
And
mean? I'm sorry, what do you mean?
the identity politics and the wokeness of the, like you're talking about a little bit with the Democrats, they need to focus more on the policies. And if they did, I think and they're going to have to in the future, because I predicted before Trump got elected the same thing I'll predict now. I said Biden needs some type of peace in the Middle East and or Russia, Ukraine, and a good, meaningful conviction on Trump with prison time or jail time, and an economic upshift. If he gets one of those, he may have a chance. Biden didn't get any of those. Trump is in the same position now, but he's got multiple years to try to achieve a little bit of some kind of tangible peace in the Middle East or Russia, Ukraine. And it looks like those conflicts are getting more ripe for a ceasefire. And the economy is, as long as it doesn't tank, and Trump is a lame duck president, if the Democrats don't get on a policy and agenda bandwagon and not an identity politics bandwagon, they're not going to stand a chance against Vance.
Yeah. Well, the most deadly ad that just sunk, that just torpedoed the Democratic Party was Trump is for you, Kamala is for they them, right? And that it speaks to the lack of values they have in foundational societal basically common sense, right? The cornerstones of how we all live and walk around this earth were just completely upended by that party. So if they even if they find something to cling on to, like say the economy is bad, honestly, that's probably the only way they will gain any power back is if the economy tanks, and then they can say, see, no matter how crazy we may sound over here, at least we can save you from this bad economy. That might work for them still, but they that might be the only thing. But I guess my overarching point is they have nothing right now. Like like every single issue that anybody actually cares about, Trump has taken.
I think you really nailed it on the head, the Intel guy. The only thing that the Democrats will have is if Trump tanks this country. If Trump takes this country, if the economy crashes, if we start having like civil unrest, the Democrats can be like, see, look at this.
I would say civil unrest alone wouldn't work. I think it has to have a valid reason because
Well,
we've
no,
already gone
like
through
a tanked economy.
We
Tanked
already,
economy.
yeah, that had to be a tank economy. Anything else is not. I mean, I don't even think a quote unquote race war is going to work this time because
No.
The George Floyd thing. Everybody's finally seen through that. The Black Lives Matter scandal. Like none of it works anymore. So
wasn't that discovered to be like influenced by Russia? Didn't Russia heavily influence BLM? Like, I mean, it started out organic, but then I was under the impression that Russia went in and they spread it like wildfire.
So I think maybe what you're hitting on are the video, and Rebel, maybe you have some insight on this, but the one thing that was never really like explained to me, not that I dug in any detailed investigations, but you would definitely see videos of fairer skinned individuals that were masked, that were starting fires and breaking windows and causing havoc before the riots even started, and nobody ever found out who those people were. And so to that point, they could have been Russian, paid by Russia. They could have been just anti, just racist assholes. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
there was a DIA paper. Go ahead, Intel guy.
But just circling back to like the corruption of it all, it was organic to start. So I mean, sadly, it just never was a real thing. But
there was a DIA element that I heard of that was looking at it from the angle of potential CPC type influence in BLM. I do think that they got some funding, 1 or 2 degrees of separation from some kind of group like that. But that's par for the course. That's international politics.
And didn't the lady who started it, or one of the founders, take like $2 million of donation money and bought a house in a white neighborhood? 4 million?
4 houses. And a lot more than
great.
It's 2 million.
And I don't understand, because I don't understand how the Democrats didn't crucify her.
Well, that's a good point, and I see it on the other side as well. We're in our tribes and our politically polarized silos and echo chambers, and we're supportive of our team jersey. I'm an American, so I will criticize any leader that does something stupid. I've criticized Obama for being a coward in Ukraine. Same thing with Biden. I don't know if he was a coward or he was just like, what? I mean, I don't think he had really. I don't know if he wasn't listening to his national security advisors or if he wasn't taking just decisive and fast enough action. But his inactions were astounding.
Yeah, well, I feel like he was still, that was echoes from his time dealing with the Russians in the former Soviet Union, right? I feel like he was afraid. He was literally afraid of Putin and Russia, what they could.
Really? I don't think so.
I think
why? You may know more than I do about this.
Well, because he missed out on so many opportunities to blunt Russia's advance early on and just float. I mean, like, had we flowed forces immediately into
my God.
Even before, the thing that really bothers me is that the buildup started in March, April of that year.
Yes.
And for 6 months, we just watched it build and build and build. And we should have counter-built, right? We should have been like, hey, we noticed you put 100,000 troops on the border. Well, we're going to have 50,000 U.S. troops in Kyiv next week.
Yes.
I mean, yes. I don't understand why we didn't do that.
Why didn't we do it?
Because it was pre-main invasion, right? So it never once had Putin never whispered, "Well, if you do anything against what I'm trying to do in nuclear war," like he never said that. He's like, "I'm just conducting an exercise, guys. What invasion are you talking about?" Like, but we knew it was going to be an invasion. We just let it happen.
Yeah, and they knew there was an invasion that was going to happen. And
you too have the troops, Derry.
What happened?
I recently made a post where I'm pointing out that
Someone just said we didn't have the troops. That's just ridiculous.
And they said that look at the troop rotations at that time. I'm like, what's your point? We can flip rotations on a dime. We can cancel everybody's exercises and say you're all going over here.
Yeah, exactly. How many tens of thousands of troops do we have in all of Europe alone?
Yeah,
and not just that, but I think we should have done it in 2014. I think like Putin was like, oh, I think Obama should have been like, oh, you're in Crimea. Okay, well, we're just going to put a bunch of peacekeepers in the rest of Ukraine. We're going to give them modern weaponry. Why not? And oh, there are corrupt gangs. Let's use our military to like just take those jerks apart. Like one thing I'm approve of what Trump is doing is he's going after the cartels. Great. We should have gone after them a long time ago.
I'm really interested in seeing what kind of traction he can get with the cartels.
Sorry, Intel
the border.
Oh,
what?
Oh, sorry. We're pointing at you.
Me and Gio keep interrupting Rebel, and I want to give him a solid 3 minutes. Ready to go.
So, number one, I wanted to point out that I just recently made a post where I'm quoting Professor, I think his name is Andrew Mikta, and he wrote an article back for the Atlantic Council a few months ago. I'm not sure if Ukraine, even if they were in NATO, I'm not sure if NATO would have responded. I think Putin might have still invaded, and NATO might not have responded well enough with Biden in there. And going back to countering the cartels, that may be the overall message that future administrations with state governors on board, and for the most part, are going to try to send in the future, because I believe that we're seeing a global shift to where the governance wants to regain the public trust, and they can't do that if there's organized crime. So this is, in DC, for example, this is one of Trump's stances: get tough on crime, similar to at least posturing in a meaningful way towards the cartels in the South, because they're looking at places like Japan, and Japan has very effective anti-Yakuza laws, the Yakuza exclusion laws. They've reduced Yakuza activity and membership across the board by 30% over the last 20 years or so. Wow. This is one of the reasons that I kind of doubt the overall statistics in DC, because how meaningful is it that you're saying 34% in 1 year and then like 25% the next year? That's not a drop as much as it's a correction.
Yes.
When the stats show you that the overall crime rate is reduced over 30% over the last 20 years, and Yakuza crime members, the organized crime, has a 30% decrease in membership, that is long impact. And they're doing the same in Italy, and I believe that we need to do the same with Russian and Ukrainian war and the cartels south of the border, because the Russian and Ukrainian war, the Russian war, are helping the Russian troops and with hybrid warfare.
Did you say vor?
The Russian mafia. VOR, the Russian mafia.
So because you made a post about that yesterday. The Russian mafia, the Ukrainian mafia. So it's just two mafias fighting. Are you 100% convinced of this, or is this kind of like you have a feeling?
Well, there's organized crime everywhere, and typically when you see a nation state like Russia, Putin is going to actually like activate those cells. Putin and the Kremlin and the oligarchs, they're going to work pretty much roughly the same way the CIA did with the mafias in America during World War II. They're in a wartime economy and everything. It's do or die. Russia is going to mobilize those VORI, Russian mafia, to help them conduct espionage, sabotage, etc. And they're still perpetrating their organized crime. So if Japan can do what they did to the Yakuza, if Italy can reduce the Cosa Nostra to almost being restricted just to Sicily now, although 'Ndrangheta is on the rise in Calabria, and Campania also has Camorra, hopefully in the U.S. we have the countercrime elements, and we can push them south of the border, and the Interpol and Europol and DEA and others can crunch the Russian mafia in their operations globally as well.
It's
See
interesting.
where Rebels' focus is.
What,
Listen
like
to all these criminal networks by name.
like it's what you're saying reminds me of you know, about a year ago there was a push for judges now to be elected by the people instead of appointed in Mexico. And America's fear was that the judges who could be publicly appointed will be appointed with cartel support. So what if it's something to do with that?
Yeah, corruption in Mexico is just off the chain. So that's one of the top priorities that they need to tackle.
Mexico's a failed state. Let's just be real.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I wouldn't say failed state, but it's sad that they never really
There are whole
benefited.
pockets of their country they don't control.
Yeah. Mexico overall never really greatly benefited from NAFTA. Sad.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like Ross Perot was right.
What about which part?
Just like NAFTA was going to. It's just going to take millions of American jobs, bring them to Mexico, and I mean, don't get me wrong. It did bring some jobs to Mexico, but it was nowhere. It was like the ideal was nowhere achieved as to what was advertised. It was an opening of something called maquiladoras. Those are like the Mexican sweatshops.
Ironically, the UCMA, is that right? USMCA is more beneficial to Mexico.
USMCA.
Yeah.
What's
Trump,
that?
Trump's trade agreement back in his first term.
Right.
Look, I'm not going to shoot the guy. Where I'm not going to deny a win is a win. As I've said before. Oh, this is really funny. So I really ticked off a whole bunch of people who are just extreme liberal because we were all trashing Trump, and I was like, but he won. He won through all this. He had there is some genius behind him. There's some kind of genius where everyone around him drops like flies, and he just dusts off.
Teflon Don, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And gets reelected. And they were just like, how could you say that? I'm like, oh, he's just freaking lucky.
Because it's true. Like, I mean, yeah.
And again, don't like the guy, but you have to be able to see facts outside of your dispositions. Like
Yeah.
the truth is more important than any of our egos.
Yep.
Yeah, but it doesn't get clicks and views and likes because we need that provocation and contention. And if this was a live that was just among a group of people on the left or the right, you'd see like probably 300 or 400 people in the room, and all like you'd be at 10 or 20,000 likes already.
That's fine. Yeah, you guys are cursed. The algorithm is after you guys.
Trust me. I feel like it's something on the back end, like literally human beings got a hold of us and we're like, well, we're going to put a weighted scale on this person.
I was able to help you a little bit, Intel guy,
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
But like Rebel Intel is like, even the post I made, it was like I was losing followers. I was like, holy shit.
I'm telling you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, no, because
what happened?
Intel, you talk about corruption on our side. On the side, and that's just, I guess it's just something the algorithm won't favor.
I'm telling you, but a human being, a Rebel pissed off a human being, and they set his account to permanent throttle.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I think it's the series of 12 straight CIA posts that I made where I'm just talking about open source and academic materials on CIA PSYOP, because every one of those posts got 30 to 40% fewer views. I had people messaging me saying, hey, why are you talking about the CIA? Yeah, there was bots messaging me, things like that. I pissed off Preston Stew. He made a post about that. I made a little bit of an error. I apologize for it, but I must have received almost 100 DMs from people that thought that they had one word, Vlad, because they thought something that I did meant that I was pro-Russian.
You guys are not pro-Russian. These are not pro-Russian. These are one of the reasons why we get along so well, because we understand Russia's the problem.
Pro-Russian. But you and Mr. Global, here's the sad thing is like you and Mr. Global helped me get like 2,500 more followers.
Nice.
And it's still the like people who follow me on the right who know I'm a conservative and I voted for Trump, but they know I'm not MAGA. And they're upset that I've criticized a couple of their favorite dear little content creators because
Oh,
some of
oh,
their favorite content creators are full of shit.
don't even say his name because it might get you again. Like I went
Right.
after him a while ago, and I suffered a little bit of a view jail, but like I had a big enough following, and but like yeah, that was. Oh, by the way, I actually saw the footage of what happened to the guy. I feel kind of bad for him.
Oh, when he got tased?
Yeah, do you know who I'm talking about, Intel guy?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
very aware of him and I are mutuals. So yeah.
All I said in my post is I don't agree with that, and he should have gotten it taken care of, basically. And I hope he gets the help that he needs.
You're such a harsh jerk. How dare you? How dare you say
No.
such horrendous things?
Well,
Well,
personally,
this is
I'm glad his account exists, mainly because there's so many more on the left than on the right that counter that are like a counterweight, and his is primarily the only one. So
No, he's flat out saying like misinfo. You know what I mean?
so are all of the big left wing creators. There's so many more of them than there are of the
I
right.
barely paid attention to the lefties and even the righties too. So like what like
Well, there you go then.
that's
like
my
what
problem. That's one of my problems with that whole strategy and everything is that one of the things he does is he takes a stitch from some Gen Z lefty that I would have never heard what he said in the first place,
Harry
and
Harry.
right,
That's one.
That's the prime first one, yeah.
and nobody's listening to that kid anyway except Gen Z lefties.
Which is a problem.
Well, it is, but it exacerbates the problem if you're trying to counter it with additional misinformation sometimes.
Well, I think I would take that critique, except that maybe some of the misinformation he provides is separate from his critique of the left. And even if, because most of the time he's more or less correcting the record because they're just spewing nothing but BS in the first place.
I heard his dissertations on the tariffs. He got it so horrendously wrong.
No, I have no idea what he said.
I
Also,
mean, it just
Also, the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
yeah,
Total,
like no, I think I
totally
don't think
wrong.
you should
No
fight
idea.
misinformation with misinformation. You fight misinformation with facts and the truth. You know what I mean? And you hammer it down. You hammer it and you fire away and you hammer it. You don't like if a snake gets into my house through my door, I'm not gonna crawl up to the snake. I'm gonna walk over and I'm gonna stomp on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a human
My thing
freaking
is, like,
being.
saying somebody like Tizzy or Under the Desk News was wrong about this post is one thing, but then that's fine. But then you're walking that fine line to where here's the thing is like I can criticize Geo Husar and I've criticized Mr. Global a couple of times, and guess what? It's water off a duck's back.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
think that's the problem, right? Or that's the solution, rather, is that there's not enough people that are willing to do that, right? Like take Under the Desk News for example. Her and I were mutuals until she found out that I did not vote the way she wanted me to vote, and then she blocked me.
Yeah,
That doesn't
that's
help.
unacceptable too.
It doesn't help. I mean, I'm not blocking anyone,
No, me neither. Yeah.
Also have a big problem with anybody going after another veteran and you're airing out however you get this guy's DD 214 and you black out a couple of things. Okay, fine, but that you can see in the DD 214 that he was a staff sergeant and he went through these schools and he learned Persian Farsi and he deployed, and you're trying to call him out for not being a combat veteran or whatever.
That was really dumb.
Who is this?
It doesn't matter. It's
Oh,
totally-
that guy, the Tazy Facey.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's what I heard got the 1 million plus account slammed, and I was like, whatever. there's just too many things going on. All I did was somebody asked me, "What do you think about this situation?" I said, "Well, I wish he would have got the help he needed. I have a strong opinion about that, and I hope he gets the help that he needs." And the next thing you knew, I went like my viewership just almost just in the hundreds.
I see it. I still see it. You got a few bigger posts coming out, but yeah, like it's for the stuff you provide. I just I don't know.
For like I
It's
said, I can criticize you or or Mr. Global, and I can still get you to endorse me, and
Yeah,
within a few weeks get 2,500 followers and kind of get back up there.
yeah,
When you can't criticize somebody
yes,
because they're
yes,
it's like you're supposed to be on the same team or whatever, that kind of mentality, but they're just that wrong.
yeah.
And it's a very slight and fairly professional critique. I have a problem with that a little bit.
Well, I think the issue more or less, and I don't think we should be conflating this. It's one thing to not have another creator, allow things to, water under the bridge type attitude. It's quite another to have that their followers,
Thank you for the
whether
gift.
they're told to or not, their followers just genuinely
Thank you.
are so, I don't know, ignorant and insidious that they go after you, right? So I think that's really, it's not the creator's fault unless he's actively saying, "Hey, go after," which they almost never do. It's the fact that these people exist.
You,
That's a
you,
real problem.
you know, I one okay. I'll say I will. I didn't know he was a veteran, so that actually it's hard for me to personally attack a veteran. I mean, just well, because one, I didn't serve. I don't know. I mean, like he served his country. But you know who I don't mind going after? I went after once a little bit. Cancel this.
Oh yeah,
I
I
forget.
like most of his content, but he's pretty hype. He's pretty weirdly polarized, like conspiracy theory polarized.
Yes.
Some of it's accurate, but some of it is pretty highly inaccurate.
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing. Like I just criticized him because in the beginning of 2024, he said we were due for a huge economic crash, and I have a degree in economics, like that's kind of my jam, and I was like, here are a bunch of charts saying why that's just dumb,
I kind of
and
lump him in the Pacific Northwestern privileged Caucasian crowd.
Pacific Northwestern Caucasian privilege. That's yeah, yeah. There is a certain kind of privilege there. Yeah, that's a. Wait, are
Other
you
than
in
that,
Texas? Are
I'm
you
in
from Texas?
Texas.
Is that where you're from?
I'm from New Mexico.
Okay, all right, okay, all right. I don't know any insults to New Mexico, but if you were from Texas, I wasn't going to insult Texas because there's like 30 guns per baby in Texas. I'm not. You guys just.
Well, the one
Feel
thing I had
free.
against the one thing I could always lobby against Texas was I was from Alaska, and so I'd always be like, well, if you split Alaska in half, then Texas becomes the third largest state.
Yeah.
That's a go.
So you
Um,
can go after Texas or New Mexico all you want. Yeah, New Mexico's in a rough spot right now.
really, what's going on?
They've been that way for a while.
Yeah, Albuquerque's a sanctuary city. The Democrats are ruining it. If you want to get some controversy stirred here, um, it's always been a Democratic state, and you can see its demographics and the economy. They're really not doing anything to stimulate the economy. It's probably ranked 47 or lower in almost every factor that you can look at. And I moved over to after I got out of the military. I moved out of into Texas. Like everything now, there's no mountains and there's not really good beaches, and I missed that. There's not really good deserts because around Midland, Odessa is pretty nasty. Some of the deserts in New Mexico are really beautiful. I miss that, but Texas has so much more opportunity,
yeah.
and everything's better in this state that happens to be
Thank you, Cosmo
conservative.
Crypto. Well, it's interesting. It's funny how some states which are just locked in to a political party just stay poor. Like look, like West Virginia, or well, I guess New Mexico, or even like or Louisiana. I mean, most of them happen to be red, but I feel like even New Mexico, I bet you the reason why it keeps going blue is because they have politicians who tell them what they want to hear. and anything happens, well, it's the Republicans' fault. And it's the same. It's the same in the red states too.
I'd be curious to see what the gerrymandering looks like though in those blue states.
So what's going? So how? Like, okay, I know the last I heard before, like the fever kicked in, and I kind of like wasn't researching. Yeah, the representatives left the state of Texas. So what's going on now?
Rebel, do you want to cover? I mean, I don't know.
You're in Texas, Rebel.
I pretty much assume they're coming back and they're going to be forced to vote on the map, and they're going to lose. What's her name? Crockett's going to lose her seat, and they're going to Republicans are going to gain 5. That's the way I understand it.
My wife was asking me about that the other day because I was actually a bellhop at the Marriott Pyramid in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in about, I think it was 2002, and something similar was going on, and a lot of Texas Congress people were at our hotel. I was like, is there some sort of convention in New Mexico for Texas? They're like, no, we're fleeing from the state because the governor at that time, they said, was trying to reorganize the districts to benefit the Republicans. So I think that roughly the same thing is going on here. And so this situation currently is not unprecedented either. And at the end of the day, I think they're going to end up coming back. Nothing's going to happen, and there might be a little bit of redistricting.
Well, so how do you guys feel about gerrymandering?
I think gerrymandering sucks. I mean, it would be nice if there was
why we're friends.
Yeah, a much more even pattern across states that made it more just fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you stretch lines into different populations in order to swing the district your way, which is gerrymandering, it just skews, I think, the total representation of the country. And yeah.
What do you think about Trump's words? I think, what was it, 6 or 8 years ago, where he said first he said if everybody voted, a Republican would never get elected president again. But then what do you think about like the whole gerrymandering push was to keep conservative votes like
suppressed?
Like no, the whole purpose of gerrymandering was to keep the conservative vote around.
But the majority, the worst gerrymandered states are all blue.
What is it? Massachusetts
and Illinois and Maryland.
Yes. So Massachusetts. I just knew about Massachusetts. I didn't know about Maryland, but that makes sense. Old blue states were gerrymandered to stay blue.
Right. And then California. Okay. Let's be real.
California. Sure. Okay. Fine. I'll go there. But I mean, it's not just the blue states. I mean, at least in Congress. When I forgot what year it was, but when there was a push to eliminate gerrymandering, like what was it? It got there were Democrats who supported it, but not one Republican did.
To do what?
To get rid of gerrymandering.
Oh yeah. Well, I think, and I mean that's a fair critique. But going back to your original comment, if like everybody who's voted, they're a Republican never won again. That's based off of zero data, right? I mean, they're in their fields when they make that comment because they're like, well, how could anybody vote for Republican? We're the winning team. We have all the issues, and it's like, well, if you kept that same energy, the team that literally has command of all the issues is the Republicans. So by that same logic, if everybody voted right now, you'd never see another Democrat in power. So
I disagree. I think the reason why. Like most people don't vote because the only reason most people don't vote because they think the system isn't working for them.
Right.
Don't most people vote based on their perception of the economy?
That too.
Most current voters are doing it based off of the perception of the economy. From at least that's what I remember reading. But there are other people who they're like the people who aren't voting. Like something isn't being addressed at all. I don't know if it's civil rights or, I mean, we saw, I don't know where you guys were, but where I saw, which was so ridiculous in this election was, I'm not going to vote because I don't like what's going on in Israel and Palestine. There's just so much bloodshed. And I'm like, there's going to be more of it if Trump gets elected.
No matter what.
I think Trump would be like, go ahead, do what you want. You want to build a park? Go, sure, yeah. A mall, sure.
Trump Park.
Oh, what was that?
Just as long as you name it Trump Park.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so it just some people aren't voting just because of sometimes
Well, gerrymandering is just like the same thing we were talking about with organized crime and corruption. That, they got it so bad in all these other countries, and the U.S. is supposed to be the lead in the international system, and everybody looks at us. And anytime they see that and they have this perception, but at the end of the day, there's still more people trying to migrate to
Here.
the United States for the opportunities.
Yes. But my concern, though, is like our debt didn't scare me so much in 2022 because I saw the spikes. I saw the drop in the value of our debt. Okay, I was like, well, that's a temporary thing because interest rates are rise, things will stabilize, and blah blah blah. And we started to see, like our treasury yields drop. And even before November, we saw like the 10-year treasury yield, which is like that's the most commonly held form of government debt, from the United States. Like it was dropping to below like 3.8%. It was getting lower, and it looked like it was going to trend to like 3.5, which means our debt became more expensive, more valuable to sell. Take a look at it, Intel guy. But it also means we pay less interest on our borrowing, if we incur a deficit. But now, because of the tariffs, and because of like Japan, like one of our biggest trading, like Japan holds the most U.S. debt. It's not China, it's Japan. They hold 1.1 trillion, and China holds like I think 750 billion, maybe a little less now. So like we tariff Japan, who is our number one cooperator with our debt, and Japan started they started auctioning their bonds. And what does that do? It increases the interest that we have to pay on this debt. It also drops the value of our debt. And now I'm worried that we are going to start heading into this consistently high interest payment, like where we are in unsustainable debt territory, and that can really hurt us. Like I think we will still have opportunities, but this can really hurt the American economy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, the way it stands now, if I understood it right, and I've seen this from videos from you and a few others, we can't hardly even put a dent in just the interest rate, right? But
yes.
Is there a way to compare it to when Nixon pulled us off the gold standard? Because basically Japan and Europe were rising economies, and they had a lot of the US dollar value, and they were going to try to convert it to gold, right?
They were like Europe, Japan, a bunch of and even just really wealthy people were buying like millions of US dollars and then immediately converting it to gold. So it was almost a national security issue that it was almost a nefarious thing. But what's going on now with this debt, it's not a nefarious thing. It's self-inflicted. We keep doing it. And one of the reasons why the debt has increased so dramatically over the past 8 years, it wasn't just COVID. It was the tax cuts in 2017.
It was also the retirees.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, I don't think it was.
That's part of the system, right? That people don't understand. Which is right now we're looking at 10,000 a day of people retiring, being eligible for these mandatory, benefits that get paid by taxes. I mean, like the majority of our debt, almost 80% of it, is on autopilot. It's literally written into law. It has to get paid. Yes. And then you and I have had this discussion numerous times, and yet it should be the number one topic.
Our debt and the retirees.
Women need to have more kids, or we need to have, we need to have immigration reform that supports a positive growth economy, of which this goes all the way back to kind of one of the starters of our conversations, which is listening to the left and the right, because the left has a lot of great ideas in this field, but they're unwilling to accept the security component, which Trump is currently doing. But conversely, the Republicans traditionally don't accept the reforms that the liberals want, but they accept the security. Right? Both ideas are good together.
Yeah.
And
sorry,
I was just going to say, if the next big ticket item is not Trump saying immigration reform, he may very well lose the midterms. Just saying.
Yeah, because immigration reform and the border security, if we had that locked down, then everybody that came over during Biden's time would be more of a positive. And even during Biden's time, Biden had to shift those guys back. Trump in this era is not going to come close to Biden's deportation numbers. It's just the manner. It's just the manner that Trump does these deportations or removals that really irks a lot of people. He's not going to come close to the same numbers. And hopefully, if we get more immigration reform in the border security, we'll get more of, for lack of a better term, a little bit more of the higher skilled, positive immigration that we are gonna that are gonna stay here and not consider it more of like the jaula de oro or gilded or golden cage. A lot of the people that come over, they're just doing migrant work. They don't want to live here and stay here, and then they want to take their money and everything and go back. We want a sim with a home to be a sim that won't roam.
A sim? What's a sim?
Sim City.
Oh, okay. Before immigration reform, I just want to mention about you asked about putting a dent into our debt and our interest payments. Yeah, raise the taxes back to where they were in 2017. The corporate tax rate used to be 35%, and Trump cut it to 21%. And then not just that, but the average tax rate for the 1% was about, I believe, 26%, and now it's like about 24%. That's over $140 billion a year in revenue that should have been taxed. In tax revenue we didn't get. And that's why if you look at our deficit, like that Intel guy, if you want to take a look, if you look at our deficit, it's the way it's trended down so precipitously after 2018. It's because of those tax cuts. And we had a huge drop. The deficit during COVID was like 3.2 trillion. Okay, fine. It was an emergency. We went crazy to try to keep the economy from crashing. But even afterwards, the deficit is still incredibly high. It's still about, I don't know.
Right, but
go ahead.
When you literally ask, okay, well, where are these numbers going? It still falls out to the same, which is 70-80% go to mandatory spending. So until you tackle a mandatory spending issue, which is an issue, not a solution, obviously, it's what's causing all those problems. We're constantly going to have this same discussion and argument. It's not going to have the real solution is or not the whole solution. It's not a silver bullet, but part of the solution is, and you're going to hate this, but is partially what they're trying to do with Medicare and Medicaid right now, and it's because the messaging is all wrong. They are focusing on introducing AI and introducing and reducing the classic red tape argument, which is very valid, very true. Anybody that works in government freaking knows that's a fact.
Yes.
And there's probably 5 people out there doing the same job when only 2 people are needed.
Yes.
All of this stuff is real and true, and part of that goes into the cost when the budgetary cost of saying, well, $800 billion for Medicare, Medicaid, whatever. And so you absolutely have to streamline these processes to reduce the overall cost. But that's just one of the solutions. But it's also something that you don't hear from the left ever talk about, which is the true problem is the mandatory spending from the 80%. They always want to focus on the military, which is, don't get me wrong, I don't think we should have increased it by 160 billion. I think that was ridiculous. But it's a sliver compared to the mandatory required spending.
I'm pro-military spending. I'm sorry. I think we should absolutely ramp that up. We were doing so much better economically in the 50s and 60s when 10% of our GDP went to military spending. I don't know. Let's try that again. The minimum wage doubled in 1950, and we kept the minimum wage above inflation. This was with 10%. Good. I know it's not the same. I know. Good.
We had the Cold War too, so we had it was more of a bipolar world back then. There was U.S. and USSR, so there was that competition. Now maybe China is that rising tiger in the east that's going to stimulate that again.
That crashes their own ships while they're trying to bully the Philippines.
That was amazing. That was quite the tactic. If the Philippines, if they didn't plan that, that's a new tactic they're going to start using. That was
yeah, I was
to each other.
It's like,
Crazy.
yeah, let Vietnam try something like that too. Now China won't bully
Yeah.
Vietnam though; they'll lose.
Yeah, no
Speaking of
kidding.
Vietnam, news came out just today that they are going to be basically reinvigorating their economy, and they are moving more and more towards basically a capitalist
Yeah,
system. So is it another communist domino that's falling?
we have favored traded status with Vietnam. Like,
Yeah, they
I
love
mean,
us. Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty crazy. Imagine like 50 years ago, horrible war, horrible, and I mean, and I'm not proud of this because horrible things happened, but we kind of won.
Yeah, we did because I've gotten a TikTok that went pretty viral for that, and I know you know how that game works, Gio, because you do it all the time. But with various topics, but like when I tried to explain that we actually won the Vietnam War, just from a military standpoint, because that was the argument. That was the argument I was replying to. Then everybody immediately comes in and says, "Oh," then they bring in the politics of it, right? But then you realize how ignorant everybody is because they don't realize the peace accords that were signed and the fact that we basically had left a skeleton crew in Vietnam for like almost 2 years before it finally fell. But then they just couple all that together and say we lost. But the way in which we won was the fact that if the goal was to stop the domino theory from occurring, well, where did it go? It didn't go from Vietnam to a bunch of other places across the world, right? It basically
No?
stopped in Vietnam. So
I mean, well, when I think of Vietnam, and again, I'm not a military analyst. Like, I don't have your guys' level of expertise, but I know we won every battle that we actually fought against the Vietnamese, right? We won every single conflict, every single, right? But I think we failed short term. Short term, I mean, yeah, like we,
well, yeah, because we were unwilling to go and unalive
yes,
every man, woman, and child.
yes,
I feel like that's the only counter argument there is like, well, what did you guys want us to do? Just like literally put everybody into a grave because we could have. We
yeah.
had the option.
That's the thing. Like when people, and I'm not proud of this. This is a horrible thing. It's like we kind of did an evil empire thing. We went to Vietnam, we killed over 1 million people, and then just left and just traded with the rest of the world. Did all just like, oh yeah, we just did this thing. Okay, fine, we did that. No repercussions. Nothing. We what did we suffer from it? What punishments did we have? It's like we kind of, we didn't. Right?
Message.
There's a couple of interesting comments or questions in there. One is somebody wants us to speak on tariffs, and somebody else asked, what were the military objectives in Vietnam?
Slow communism's advance.
Yeah.
And yes, it did. It did make it to Vietnam, and it eventually hit Cambodia. But
Laos.
oh, it went to Laos too.
Yeah. Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, China, and Cuba. Aren't those the final five that
You're
are
right.
supposedly
Yeah,
coming?
Laos. Of course, that makes sense. The thing is, like, it's so interesting because you figured Vietnam. I feel like Vietnam turning communist might have actually slowed communism spread just because China was a communist epicenter, and they failed to take Vietnam. Like, China, it took China 1 month to be like, yeah, we can't do this. Okay, we're sorry. We'll just we'll see ourselves out. Like, you go what you do in Cambodia. We'll leave you guys alone.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because China did go into Cambodia after we pulled out of Vietnam, and then 65 we were also kind of meddling in Indonesia.
Yeah. Oh, we were Indonesia. I thought you
Yeah,
could say Indochina, like just the Indo-Chinese area. But no, Indonesia. I didn't know.
yeah, the CIA rigged that whole Suharto-Sukarno thing. There was a president in there, Sukarno, that didn't. He was leaning away from DC and more towards Moscow. The CIA didn't like it, so they tried a few tricks. One of them was a coup, and then since there was a failed coup, they used their military general Suharto, who was basically in their pocket, to use the failed coup as an excuse to basically still militarily take over. They kicked Sukarno out, and the CIA handed Suharto's death squads the list of suspected communists, and that was probably some considered the most rapid purge ever. Within about, I think, as little as 3 weeks, there's almost 1 million gone.
Wow. See, like, I mean, America's not the good guy. I think we're just the most functional of the bad guys. Like, like when you think of the stuff that we've contributed to, I still love being in America. Like, I'm proud to be an American. You know what I mean? And I think, like, the Constitution is the greatest. I think it's the greatest document that's been written in the past 250 years. But man, you don't stay on top of the world by being the good guy. The good guy never wants to be in charge.
Right.
That's just it. The good guy wants to be left alone, have very simple things, and like, that's not king material.
That's what I love about this class, and especially the international political economy class. It's just so realist, and you can look at liberalism, mercantilism, Marxism, and
Sure.
you can really just point out what's kind of going on. I need to study it more, and I need to close the degree out. But this is a great field for me because it focuses on exactly everything that we're talking about.
Speaking of, like,
real quick, I had left when you guys talked about one of my favorite countries, Indonesia. Well, could you repeat real quick? Well, I was there for a while on one of my deployments, so special place in the heart. But I've been there a couple times. But what were you saying about the CIA there, Rebel?
It's detailed in the book Jakarta Method. Basically, since they didn't, it's 65, I believe, they didn't like the current president that was democratically elected, Sukarno. So eventually they basically got Suharto in. And according to the book, it's pretty well documented that it was CIA elements that delivered lists of suspected communists in Indonesia to Suharto's death squad. And it was a very short amount of time. They had about 1 million people gone.
Oh, there's a whole, God, it was back in the 90s. They had like massive breakdown of their society. Riots. It was really bad. Like lots.
I had a friend at work. That worked at Texas Instrument for a while, and he was a friend of Ross Perot's. And I think it was Perot or somebody with Texas Instruments actually had him in. What's the big city out there? I can't think of it right now, but he was in Indonesia during one of those, and he was, what is it?
No, you're not talking about Jakarta, but
might be Jakarta. It might actually be Jakarta.
Okay, I mean it's the biggest.
At any rate, he was actually NEO'd by the Marines.
NEO'd?
The Marines did a non-combatant evacuation operation.
Yeah. Because I mean, like the whole place was falling apart. It was really bad. And then shortly after 9/11, they actually suffered their own versions of 9/11 with the Bali bombings.
Right.
That was pretty bad too.
Yeah, they targeted my Latter-day Saints friends. A lot of their, I think it was 2 or 3 of their Marriott hotels.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Marriotts. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was pretty bad. Terrorism was pretty bad in the early 2000s, or that whole first decade. But.
Can we go back to the economy a little bit, or did you want to say anything else?
So I got like 5 minutes, maybe.
That's fine. So, because of the tariffs, and I'm not sure if you guys saw my post yesterday. It's like not only did imports drop, but our exports also dropped. But prices are increasing, and overall inflation is flat, but core inflation has been rising, and that's the demon. That's the really bad. Like if core inflation rises, it doesn't matter how overall inflation looks if core inflation keeps going up. And my concern is this is just going to be very bad for the little guy. It's going to be bad for the average American worker, unless some kind of trade deal is reached with the European Union and Japan, maybe something with China. I don't know.
You already get deals with those two?
Yeah, but it's still a 15% or 25% tariff when it should be like nothing. I mean, we already tariffed them 25% for their pickup trucks, but that's fine. That's a long thing. And I just think barriers to trade will never help the regular American worker. And it just, Trump said a while ago, about 3 months ago, that he wants to bring America back to the Gilded Age. And that was when the majority of government revenue came from tariffs.
Uh-huh.
That was also the greatest concentration of wealth for the 1%.
They keep saying that phrase has been tossed around just terribly.
The 1%.
No, the greatest transfer of wealth comment, right? I hear it's stated like every few years. I mean, like the pandemic was the greatest concentration of wealth.
That was
2008 was the greatest concentration of wealth.
No, the Gilded Age. The Gilded Age was the greatest concentration of wealth, and it's not even close. They had almost like 90% of the wealth.
Okay.
That was the Gilded Age.
At this point, it feels like the wealth is never ending.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was like I think it's now like 70%, maybe 6. It was 65% before. I mean, it's increasing. Okay, fine, but if that does start to happen, like if we start to see lesser up, like the dimness of the overall economy, especially for like the middle class and the working class, like what then? What do you guys see?
Well, I mean, I wish we would have started this conversation earlier because I got to go. But I don't know about what we see because I feel like the powers that be won't let anything collapse.
Not collapse, dim. That's why I said dim.
Well, dim until what? Until what? Till we finally tilt towards the brighter light. Going back to my comment about there has to be immigration reform like that. I can't believe we would be trending this direction without it. Because to your point, I think we absolutely will dim because we need to have a proper replacement rate to continue the whole global system. So it's there's a comment in the thing saying austerity. It's like, yeah, it goes global austerity, which I think is ridiculous. It doesn't have to be. I lost my train of thought. I don't know, Rebel, you got something?
Well, I made a post about it because I was talking about Scott Bessent, and there's quite a few interesting things about him. And again, I want to make sure that, if we're doing an analysis and we turned in, let's say, a 10-page paper on American economics, if one whole page of that is about Trump, that's too much because, again, Trump is just one man. We need to look at the whole system. Yes. And Trump has this whole economics team, and Scott Bessent is supposed to be one of those sort of like this Wolf of Wall Street kind of guy. And from what I understand, he wants to reinvigorate the middle class and bring back more jobs for the working class here. I don't know exactly what his plan is.
Yeah, but killing trade doesn't do that.
Here's the thing. At the end of the day, it looks, by all indicators to me, it looks like we're shifting towards a neo-mercantilist and protectionist stance, which can have a good impact on the economy, but at the same time, it doesn't benefit the poorer class. The middle class may rise up a little bit, but in the nation state, there's going to be the gap that widens, and in the international system, there's going to be the global north and the global south that widen.
Yes. Yeah, I see a widening gap. I see poor people being like dirt poor. And I see, what was that? I'm sorry.
America?
Yes. I mean, if the tariffs continue this way, and especially if we do see a drop in immigration, if we see a drop in like a heavy drop in immigrant labor, then things will just they'll not only get more expensive, but it's like, well, things will just get more expensive. Things will get more expensive, but wages are most likely going to stagnate.
Or drop.
Or drop. See, because the thing is with tariffs is like, I love the idea of buying American. Absolutely. Let's freaking do it. But even American-made products rely on components that come from like Germany, Japan, South Korea. Brazil, and it's like, so even our American products are going to get more expensive because of whatever tariffs, in our manufacturing sector. We are the world's second largest manufacturer.
Right.
So if we slow that down, okay. That's not helping anyone.
Yeah, I had a great rant a while back that I'm trying to recall, and it's difficult. Because at the end of the day, this approach is trying to answer issues that nobody was willing to solve, right? So, like, China as a geopolitical threat on multiple fronts, everybody was sounding the alarm, but nobody was doing anything about it. And then the pandemic happened, and that really ruined us from a national security perspective. And then outside of the pandemic, nobody really did anything. They went to corporations and said, "Hey, we need you guys to move these strategic items out of China's economy." And they were like, "Are you going to make us do that?" And they're like, "Well, no." Well, okay, well then we're not going to move. And so, like, in comes Trump's tariffs plan. It was like, fine, if you guys aren't going to move willingly, I'm going to force it by instituting all these tariffs. And so then you saw the tech sector, you saw all the sectors coming and bending the knee because he was going to destroy their companies through tariffs. And so that answered that, right? It needs to get solved. That was and then what didn't help was people trying not to understand his position. Going back to one of our earlier conversations about not understanding both sides, the Democrats kept coming out and just saying, "Oh, now he's tariffing an island in Antarctica. Look how stupid he is." And it's just like, okay, but you guys aren't understanding what he's doing. He's putting up a virtual wall around all of China by doing this, and he's forcing all the other economies to come to the table with a deal, which he's getting deals, and he likes binary deals, right, with just one organization or one country, and
he's transactional.
He's very transactional, right? And well, he would love it if people just did it voluntarily, but they're not. So he's forced to be transactional, which is the negative.
If you're talking about,
wait, don't let me. So with the tariffs, it's basically like a VAT tax, right? It forces the consumer to just bear the brunt of the tax burden, which means only things you're able to afford can you buy, which is probably not a great way to measure what your spending capabilities are from a governmental perspective, which is probably part of the risk that people don't want to have to experience, because ultimately before the tariffs, it was very laissez-faire in that respect. Like, you just set the rules and hit go and let things fall where they may. Whereas the tariff approach requires somebody to literally be at the helm pulling the tariff levers. Like, who's going to do that if these deals don't get solidified? I don't think a vice president or a presidential Vance coming in would be able to do the same thing. It's a unique opportunity to reshape the global trade system in our favor, but there's the risk I spoke about. There's the pushback, and then it still goes back to the fact that we have to grow the pie that has to be able to purchase. I'm still dead set on this. We need immigration reform, otherwise none of this is going to work, and then we'll fall back to pre-tariff way of things. China will still come back roaring in saying, "Hey guys, I'm still here. Here, you buy all my products." And then I
disagree. See, I disagree on China saying, "Come here," blah blah blah. Just because China, authoritarian regimes can be kind of impressive because they're like, "Look, I want a high-speed rail. Here we go. We have all these high-speed rails." But they overbuilt high-speed rails. They have high-speed rails that go nowhere. Right. They've overbuilt their manufacturing capacity. Yeah, exactly. They've overbuilt their manufacturing. They've overbuilt real estate. Like, there are some articles saying that China has enough units for every single Chinese person, and they still might have millions of more units. Every man, woman, child. So they've overbuilt in real estate. They've overbuilt with petrochemical processing. They've overbuilt with electric vehicles. Overbuilt with solar panels. So they are crushing themselves. They have already crushed themselves, and I think it's like that's just what happens. Authoritarianism eventually will lose to the free market, and we are witnessing it. And I don't think don't get me wrong. I like tariffing China because they were manipulating their currency to keep their exports more competitive. So they were absolutely doing that, and go ahead, like go after China, absolutely, but not Japan, the largest holder of our debt, not the EU, not Australia. You know, I don't know if we have any.
The problem of China, that's what they did, was they diversified to all these other countries. So it was being made in China, assembled in these other countries to avoid tariffs. So how could we go after China if all of their products were still making a profit just going through other vectors, other countries?
Wait.
Another thing that we were doing.
Go ahead. Tell me more
Yeah, so
about that. 'Cause that's where I got a little lost on the wall around China.
That's what that wall. That's why everybody was getting tariffed to high heaven, was because China had a massive global distribution network,
Sure.
and they were. And let's just use Mexico as an example, but they were doing this everywhere. They were building all of the car pieces in China, shipping them to Mexico, assembling them in Mexico, and then saying sold or made in Mexico, thus avoiding the China tariff.
Yes. Yes.
They were doing that with all their products.
Just want to say two things real quick. A guest in the audience says, by the name of Cum Kitty, says that Intel guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
That's number one. And number two, what I keep hearing everybody they contradict themselves, because on one hand they're screaming about Trump's tariffs, but on the other hand, the next thing they'll say is, "Oh, it's just going to be a taco tariff anyway." Right? Have you guys heard that expression?
Oh yeah, Trump always caves.
Chickens out. Yeah,
Always
Trump.
chickens out. Oh yeah.
But that goes back to my point though about them not understanding why he tariffed an island in Antarctica. The point is that he's getting the economy used to his tariffs. So it's not a light switch. It's nudging them in that direction, and that's why he's chickening out, is because he keeps kicking it down. But eventually the deals come in. We have a deal with the EU. We have a deal with Japan. We have a deal with the UK. I mean, like, they had a deal with some of the biggest economies already in the.
There are the tariffs. Tariffs. We shouldn't have tariffs against Japan or the EU.
Well, but the problem was that they had non-tariff barriers. I think that was the other thing I forgot to mention, was that this was trying to tackle multiple things. So, like, yeah, there's one argument where we can bring back manufacturing, but that's not. That, it's not going to be a big manufacturing, boom, like, golden age, like they keep saying, because at the same time, if you can't, the tariffs also, like, let's go back to NAFTA, like we talked about earlier. NAFTA was supposed to be free trade. Well, it was only free trade for everybody else. Like, they weren't actually reciprocal in the free trade. I remember Nancy Pelosi standing on the, as a congresswoman on the floor, railing against China's tariffs and their non-tariff barriers, not allowing us into their markets. Well, the same goes with the EU. It goes with Japan. None of these countries let American products into their markets unless they absolutely need the shit we're making.
And going to that point, the European Union has had its ins and outs with this type of, they want to have a trade agreement region like European Union. They want to have, some of them want to have the EU, but that idea in itself has failed before as well. They've had people back out of the EMS when it was the EMS in the 90s. So it comes down to the individual nation states trying to shore up control and be protectionist and say, wait a second, on this import-export thing here, we have to have not just break even, but we have to have some kind of return on investment. And if the whole planet is looking at America, and America's always the one that's pouring it out, and we don't have return on investment from multiple levels and factors, America has to do something and change it. I think one of the main ways is, as that Intel guy said previously, migration reform, border security, in
fair trade.
Fairer trade. We have to do something with the current international systems, World Trade Organization type system. It has to be. It's sort of like just the Constitution, like a living document. It can be edited or whatever, and we can say, hey, look, you guys have been piggybacking off of us for long enough. We need to circle back over here. We need to fix America. And that's what I love about the current Trump administration is I think they're at least trying to focus on, and it's not going to happen in Trump's term. Hopefully the ball will keep rolling in the right direction and we'll start focusing more on America.
When you say like non-trade barriers with America and, like, let's say the EU and other countries, sometimes, like, at least with American agriculture, these countries won't buy our agriculture because we alter a lot of our food. I actually agree with that. I like Germany should be forced to buy like vegetables or fruits or anything from, or even our beef, if they're like, hey, you put all these chemicals that we wouldn't allow in our food. Why would we buy that? And this is from a while ago. This isn't even like now. I mean, I just remember when I was in my 20s and America like retaliating against Europe like just not purchasing a lot of our agricultural products because of that. Do you see anything, Intel guy?
Well, I remember I so most of the food we produce is sold to other countries.
Yes.
So
Sure. But like, let's say some countries won't buy our corn, some countries won't buy our beef.
well, right, but a lot of our okay, that's fair. Yeah. I was
Like most of our printed
Hey,
money.
actually, I have to unfortunately call it quits. Past my curfew, so I'm gonna have to go. But go ahead and I'll probably hear you guys in the comments. But I gotta jump down. So
All right. Talk to you later, Intel guy.
thanks for again, Geo Rebel. Set this up. We'll do it.
Guys,
again.
follow Intel guy. If like just listen. Like even if he's like politically against you, just follow him because he's a keen
Right.
perspective. He's a keen perspective. It's a keen perspective from a different point of view.
Thank you.
And
You too,
he-
Geo.
Yeah.
You're my biggest fan, believe it or not. So I appreciate
Oh,
you.
thanks. Yeah.
Rebel, you're my bro. Don't worry about that.
And everyone, Intel guy has invented a new shade of lipstick for walruses and seals. If you're
Oh, here it
interested in
goes.
this merch,
You're just jealous you never visited Alaska.
It's true. I am. I do want to go. I do want to go to Alaska. I have Alaska envy. That's it.
Yeah, you do. Good night, y'all.
Take care.
Oh my gosh.
I will never let him get past him being from Alaska. That just makes sense. But so the thing is, like, when it comes to like, so like, when it comes to unfavorable trade, I don't know about that. Like America, even though we're not as capitalist as like, let's say Australia or New Zealand, believe it or not, we're not as free market. We still are very free trade. And even if we are tariffed, we will still make money. Like America is it's the smartest money place on the planet. It is the best place to have money. I think America, like money goes to where it's best treated. That's why the millionaires and billionaires are leaving the UK, China, India, because of here. So can you give me more examples though about how even if we're not tariffed, there are barriers to trade aside from what I said?
I don't know about examples on that. I'm still studying it, but I will say there was a very interesting article in the whole magazine of this. I can't remember the Atlantic or something like that. It was titled "The American Oligarchy," and it points out that about 25% of the world's billionaires and about 34% of the world's multimillionaires have a primary residence in the United States.
There you go.
And what I'm thinking is I'm still going through the international political economy course and learning more about that. So I'm not as good as talking about the barrier, tariff barriers and such. But what I will say is, I've brought it up before, these people look out for their best interest. And
Sure.
I think that they're seeing what's the way the world is going. I think that some of them are altruistic and they want to help out the rest of the world. But at the end of the day,
Who?
according to my elitist,
Who is this you're talking about? Who's this they?
these elites,
Oh, okay.
I call them the TEC, the transnational elite
Got it,
class,
yes,
and the
yes.
TEC, the transnational capitalist class. Two different versions there. But at the end of the day, they are still elitist, and for the most part, they're going to look out for their best interest. And if America can say, hey, most of these guys live here in America, you can bet that they're going to focus on trying to fix things for America one way or another, because at the end of the day, they're looking out for their best interest.
Yes. Yeah, I can get behind that, sure. And so you think that the tariffs are pushed the tariffs are not Trump's idea, but it's the TNEs who are like, hey, let's do this, and we're going to change the trading environment. Is that what you think?
Well, there's a couple of different theories out there. I saw, who was it? Another popular creator. Oh, it was Peter Zahan. Recently, Peter Zahan has put out that he thinks that Trump restructured the Republican Party, and I disagree with that. I think the Republican Party restructured itself to focus on Trump as their main candidate because they saw that he's popular and everything. So they said, "Here's our best bet," regardless of whatever else was going on in the background. And I think that it is an elitist complex that is a shadow governance that actually crafts most of that, and they're the type that help craft things like the Project 2025. And once Trump is in, Trump is just playing the cards that he's dealt. I mean, it's still his basic ideology, so it's easy for him to play. But I don't think a lot of these ideas are, some of them anyway, I don't think they're his original ideas.
I don't think so either, and I think he's just an effective spearhead for it because in his first term he tariffed China, took a strong stance against China, and then all right, when the Democrats were like, hey, this is disastrous, it's going to mess things up, blah 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 blah. Biden got reelected, did not repeal one Chinese tariff, repealed EU tariffs, but he did not repeal one Chinese tariff. So clearly that was approved. You know what I mean? And let's say I think yeah, it's Trump is doing things now. He is setting certain trends that will be easier to follow with future presidents. Do you know what I mean? Like where it's like he's the one who gets criticized and he does it, and then other presidents will just adopt it like, well, that's just what that's what we do. That's what we're doing. Like the anti-China stance, or I had something internally. I forgot what it was. I don't know, but I just think he's going to do some very controversial things, and that's just supposed to be the new normal. And we'll have
And I
presidents
think
that will walk it back.
I think that might be part of the overall strategy is this just so much chaos right now, and he's a lame duck president that when people know that he's sliding out, the left and right will balance a little bit. There'll be a little bit more moderation, and unless there's one of those things that like they just achieve no peace in Russia, Ukraine, they achieve no peace in the Middle East, the economy tanks. JD Vance looks like a shoe-in unless something like that happens.
Yeah.
But you get this. Somebody asked this question, and I don't know if you want to.
Go ahead.
This is one of those very, very sensitive issues. Somebody asked the question in the chat. Hey, Gio, how come you never say anything critical of that one country in the Middle East, just China, Russia, and Iran? Now, I know
You've
I
heard
can
me say
partially.
it. You've seen my post where I criticize them.
Oh, I thought that we'd talked before, and it's a very, it's TikTok sensitive. To partially answer that person's question, it's a TikTok sensitive issue.
Yeah. I have no qualms against saying Israel in a, like I'll say it's just if I say it in a post, it gets taken down. I get censored. I'll be shut down for a week sometimes. If I even talk
Yeah.
about Israel for more than a few minutes, sometimes I just get taken down.
Yeah. Well, I want to say I think I haven't been so critical. It's just fair and realistic. It's offensive realism.
Yeah.
I briefed military intelligence personnel on this in 2005, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
because they were going to deploy to the peacekeeping and monitoring mission in the Sinai. And I said, if you run into Israeli troops and there is any kind of conflict out there, you need to stay completely out of their way because they're going to level everything. Especially at that time, they didn't have as much distinction. And at the end of the day, my biggest thing, and I speak with Palestinians here in
Yeah.
Dallas,
Yeah.
face to face, sometimes in Arabic, and we discussed two things. Number one, they need to try to shift out Netanyahu and the ultra orthodox on that side, and the Palestinians need to unite because if they're going to remain factional, and all the Palestinians agree with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
If there's no chance for a two-state solution if there's ultra-Orthodox on this side and there's factionalism on this side.
Likud needs to be taken down. Likud needs to lose power. That's Netanyahu's party. Like, I mean, when you say, can you tell me more? Are you talking about Palestinian factionalism?
Right.
So, but like, I mean, fine, the Palestinians can do that, but the Israelis also, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the Israelis can do to get rid of Bibi because I just think he's just going to rig another election. Like
Well,
what?
he's going to be just like Putin. He's going to keep a
Yeah.
perpetual security dilemma externally so he
Yeah.
can shore up control internally.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I don't know. I feel like even if every Palestinian immediately became peaceful, that wouldn't be enough for Netanyahu.
It's crazy. Everyone that I meet in America has the biggest heart ever. They're the salt of the earth.
Oh, you're talking
They'll
about
give you the
Palestinians?
shirt
Yeah.
off of their back.
Well, say that one more time. They're the what?
They're the salt of the earth. They'll give you the shirt off their
Yes.
back.
Yeah, exactly. Every Palestinian here that I've met, like, just has been like so kind and like very loving and like very even understanding on this issue. Well, I'll tell you this: when I went to Jerusalem and Jaffa, oh, man, the hatred that was like right in my face, just because I was an American, I was like, whoa! I was like, this dude wants to kill me. You know?
Oh, from the Palestinians there or
Yes.
both sides?
No, Palestinians.
It's interesting. I haven't been there, but we've been to Egypt,
Yeah.
and I was surprised that I've typically been able to get along with Palestinians here in America, Lebanese, Iraqis, etc. I've talked to them in Iraq and everything. And I know we had a military occupation there, but when we went to Egypt, it was unfriendly and almost hostile everywhere we went.
Really?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, and they do. It's kind of it's like Mexico, but they're angry with you for some reason. They thought everybody that is American is actually CIA, and I'm like, geez. I wore soccer jerseys the whole way, mostly Spanish soccer jerseys, and I told them, hey, because everywhere we went, they had actually a code word to tell all the security personnel, hey, I've got two Americans here. But it wasn't the word for American. So I was
Really?
like, hey, yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, we have an agreement with your government to provide more protection for Americans. So we tell everybody, if they're two Americans or if they're two Canadians or whatever. And I said, I was wearing Real Madrid jerseys and Granada and other jerseys. I said, hey, let them know I'm Spaniard because I can speak a little bit of Spanish too. I can speak some Arabic,
Okay.
but I don't want you guys, everybody on the planet, to know, like, be announced that, hey, I got two Americans coming in.
So, what do you think? What do you think was Egypt's deal? Like, why was it what? Like you said, how it's like Mexico, but just less friendly. Like, what is it? Just because it's a very poor country? And thank you very much,
Man,
Joey Polyglot. What
the
was that?
poverty level, the
Yeah.
poverty level there was shocking. It was worse than like south of the border, anything you've seen south of the border. And I don't know what you saw in Israel, but we had women come up and try to give us their babies. I've never seen that before.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, the poverty level is high. They have 1 million people living in the huge cemetery in Cairo. 1 million people live in the cemetery, just sleeping out in the open and in little tents and little
Women were giving you their
shelters.
baby, just like take it away because we're all gonna die, like that kind of.
It's pretty bad out there, and I think that they dislike Americans in general, probably because a lot of those people are coming in from wars from Libya,
Yeah.
Sudan, Palestine, and they see the support that the U.S. gives Israel and whatever else. So,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
yeah, so it was tough.
Thank you, Joey Polyglot. Thank you so much for the galaxy gift. That's yeah. Like I said, it's like America, we're just the most functional of the bad guys.
I agree, and
Go
there's a
ahead.
whole international order that is like acting like they want to be dependent of us on one hand, and on the other end, they don't really want to sometimes play by the rules, so America has to end up looking ugly sometimes
Yeah.
or bad.
Yeah. No, that's just okay. My alarm went off.
All right, brother.
Dude, Rebel, this was great. This was a really good talk. I'm glad we got to do this. This wasn't even a debate. It was just a discussion. Like I feel like my perspective got
we'll have to
enhanced.
find another issue of more contention next time, and maybe bring up Mr. Global too, or whatever, if he wants to come on, or somebody, Joey Contino or whatever. He'll
Yeah.
fire things up.
Yeah, because we weren't contentious. We were like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's just
I thought you were going to go with more of the, hey, this is not constitutional. Trump
no.
this is fascist. And I was ready for that. And I was like, well, it's not precedented. It's got a legal precedence. It's not fascist. It's not unconstitutional. I thought that's where you were going to go. And if that's where you were going to go, you went to, maybe it's going to spread to other cities. And
So
I can
I
see the
got you.
concern for that.
I got you.
Well, again, I think the governors are going to handle that, though.
Yeah. I mean, look, if Trump sets a precedent where governors just start like having the state come in, then to take like let's say Memphis or other dangerous cities, well, that's not a problem then. Or who knows? Maybe it's a push to like just get people to like let the police do their effing job.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go. This was good. This is great. I'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.
All right, take care. Have a great night. Thank you.
You too. Everyone, follow Rebel Intel. All right, take care.